Okay, are you comfortable kind of with the format, 20, 25 minutes? That includes questions
really bad and
20 to 25
crazy.
Yeah, we can ramble.
Yeah, about a week ago my appetite.
You don't need to take all the time if you don't want.
All right. I started off with a sweet burrito.
We'll just send you the slideshow and leave. Just show you a picture of a big rock.
I was like,
I didn't say he would get 100% of the presentation now.
For today, for a week, you know. No, we're bringing all of it. We have to show the
crazy.
It's a rock in the shape of a graduation cap. It's a capstone. Okay, there we go.
So this is Utilaware.
Yes. Yes, it is. So, for those who don't know, Utilaware is a local startup company that has sensors that monitors sewer equipment. The two types are sewer lifts and water pumps. Just lets it know when the power goes out or something goes wrong with them. It'll sends a text message. Utilaware's got a system that sends a text message out to notify. So they're trying to fix that problem because when something goes out of order, it causes big problems. Lots of money is spent. So the solution, alternative solutions are a more expensive system that really are archaic. So Utilaware has taken advantage with some of the new features, the IoT devices that can plug right into the current sensors and let them know. So you hit it. Where we come in is currently that's all it does. It sends out a text message. So for our capstone, we built kind of a web portal that allows the users to go ahead and register their own sensors, to monitor their own statuses and to see past data so they can see trends, see them on a map, that sort of thing. So that's what we were up to. So when we came in, they had Particle, Twilio, and a LAMP server. So Particle is the IoT, sends data to the LAMP server, which uses Twilio to send the text message. We did these four down at the bottom. We've got a website hosted in S3, built in Angular 7, Lambda, and Cognito, built kind of a serverless architecture to make it scalable. Go ahead. We've got a nice graph. You can kind of see how everything works together here. The reason we focused on serverless is they're a startup company. They don't have a lot of money to expend. So we wanted to give them a good launch platform to be able to not spend money as they grow, have it be flexible enough to support many more users. So there's our stack. We've got Cognito doing the authentication. We've got Angular being hosted in the website. API gateway then passes it off to AWS Lambda, which then goes over to an EC2 service that's hosting MySQL. Okay, so a large portion of our project was actually to do ETL work. They kind of just been dumping data in the database. They didn't really have very good names at all. Just trying to figure out what the database was a huge problem for us. So a huge part of our project was to move their GoDaddy server, which had limited access for us, over to EC2, and then also to change the schema to support the new application. So you can see lots of new tables were added here. What to do with that.
Great. So now we want to demo first. I just want to go through some of the EC2 or some of the AWS services that we're using. So S3 is probably the simplest. It's just we have one bucket where we store the actual website. So there's no server, there's no Apache, we don't have to do Nginx or anything like that. It's all served just through this S3 bucket that's has public access. This other bucket here we use to store some shared objects, which I'll talk about a little bit later. For our kind of give you the way that this kind of all ties together. So the first thing is API gateway, and I'll show you the API that we built. So if you look at our resources, you can see here all the different endpoints that we have, because everything that our app does essentially has an endpoint for it. It's this microservice infrastructure that makes it so that if something breaks, just that one piece breaks. And you can see we have settings for sensors, we've got user options here, create email, check email, set permissions, get the sensor status. All of our endpoints are built here. Though from there, they just call Lambda, and you can see the list of functions that we have built. There's 3 pages here, so you can just see the different functions here. It's pretty straightforward. You can see if you open up one, it's kind of nice because you can see all the code here online and you can test it. So we're familiar with this, but that's how this all works. One of the things that this does is it actually goes to the S3 bucket and it pulls in there's some shared code in there. So some functions, like for example connecting to the database, we're doing that everywhere, and so it doesn't make sense for that to be coded everywhere. We don't want to repeat code, but we want to maintain this microservice infrastructure. So this actually contains the code for a lot of the repeated functions. A good example is taking the token from Cognito that authenticates users, the code that gets that token decodes and compares it. It's all in that bucket. Leading into that, or that leads into, I should say, Cognito, which hosts, so this saves all the passwords, it saves all the users, it helps us manage, updating passwords and all that good stuff. Stuff that we didn't want to have to deal with. We don't have to worry about losing passwords. We didn't want to have to deal with, all the security concerns that come with that. But however, we did need to manage permissions. We did need to say, okay, this user has access to do this user's phone number is this, their email is this, because we're sending out notifications. So this pairs with the database schema that Blake showed you. We have a user table in there, and when a user is created, it will create a user in here, send them an email, and then it creates the user in the database that connects them to the account and the permissions and services that they have access to. Awesome. So now, I guess we can go to a demo. So this is our live website, and we're going to go ahead and log out. One thing that we learned is that user management is a big system. It took a lot to code all of this, and so third-party authentication is often a good option. But just to demo how this works, we've got all the functionality that you expect. I forgot my password recovery, sends emails, it's fully functional. We have feedback, so if you try to sign in with the wrong password, it's really straightforward when it comes to how you expect it to work. But when you actually go down and code it all, as a user, you can go in to look at your settings to demo really quickly. If you change something, it creates this little form and it'll update in real time. So if I change this to my name and I click save, you'll notice that up here on the top right, it updated. It completely updates in real time. Changing password, that works exactly how you would expect. This other piece down here is user management. So you can see all the users that we have on the site. We could create a new user, and we could step through this. And this will send out an email. I won't go through this right now. For the sake of time, we can go into it more. There's more questions. But if we take a user, we take this guy, and we can edit them. We could delete them, but you can see edit. It shows. Scrolling here. You can see the permissions, and you can change it right here. You can say yes, they can, or no, they can't do that anymore. So this is. Each one of these is actually making a call and updating it in real time to the database permissions on the back end. Awesome.
So a couple things we built specifically for util-aware. They need an easy way to, when they get a device, they've got to enter it into Particle and into the database so we can use it. So we created a form for them to do that. They also want to be able to check in on their clients' accounts. They requested that, so here you can switch accounts pretty easily, just like you would expect. And we'll actually go back to where it's got more sensors. Which takes us to sensor settings. So here it loads sensors. You can go ahead and change locations so that they know where the sensors are. Go ahead and edit it through dragging it. other thing, since we're showing off features here, is this is completely mobile friendly. So you can go ahead, with the exception of the dashboard, we're still working on that, and it looks and is fully functional.
Yeah. So one of among user management and just managing sensors, one of the main business value added that we're able to create with this web portal is actually through this dashboard of giving them another view besides text messages of anything in alert. It also allows us to give them just status updates. So you'll notice kind of how we talked before with how we've set everything up in the cloud and with our various API calls and Lambda functions. Various pieces of this, the way this website is built will just allow so that if a certain part fails, the whole system doesn't fail. We can see, for example, this system being alert, we can get a couple statuses, just updates about what's actually failing, just to give them some more info, just in case they want to, if they've lost their text message history or they don't have their phone on them and they're just at the desktop. Another big key is since their product right now has mostly just been via text message, they really wanted to give to the users the ability to look at the historical data, specifically for the status of their sensors. So if it's a sewer lift pump, they want to know kind of basically these 4 status alerts. If something's breaking, if water levels are too high, if they've lost power from the grid. And so we've just given them a simple, again, going through the database and getting the sensor alerts that have come like every 10 minutes. We're able to historically chart and just give them that historical view that they can look for over time. Currently, right now, how they're wanting their data to be displayed is if something is an alert, gives the count per hour. So for example, the one we have highlighted right now, they lost grid power to a particular sensor, in one of their shacks or one of their utilities, and they lost that power for 40 minutes before they were able to resolve it. This is useful for them to, if they're noticing trends, anything that deals with historical data, I think we're all familiar with. Also, if they have common reports they'd like to view, very easy to pin those to the dashboard. So if there's anything that they're just interested in seeing, they're just able to do a quick search. Okay. That's just a good kind of overview of the front end that is supported by it.
So is this live data?
Yes, this is live data.
Yes, it is. A parallel system, that's not production.
Yeah.
So that's the data they're talking.
Got it.
Okay. So kind of the 2 big things is just to communicate the value that's added to the business by doing this. A couple main things obviously is at this point all that a user sees is when a sensor is installed. They see a physical sensor, but then they get an occasional text message when something's wrong, which is extremely useful and which is why their business functions. But giving them a tangible website, a visual website they can go, makes it a little bit more tangible, allowing them just to communicate like, hey, like I can go back and look at my historical data. If something's an alert, I have another portal. Really helpful with some of the mapping features. So if the power goes down in a general area, and I'm on my phone, with that mobile friendly, can I look and see what's in alert in this general area? Also, again, the historical analysis, very powerful for them to be able to, if they're looking at any of their trends, maybe a part's starting to get bad and they're noticing, one of their pumps is going out frequently and they're able to kind of make those kind of assumptions based on that. A huge thing is that, like's been mentioned before, a huge part of our project was in the cloud-based infrastructure. Being such a small company, with the promise and the hope of expanding pretty rapidly, and due to the nature of the sensor data coming in on a pretty regular basis. So we're talking about, say they have a client that owns 50 sensors, those 50 sensors are sending in an alert every 10 minutes. The data grows pretty rapidly. So that's why we elected to do it in the cloud infrastructure, to just allow them to grow quickly and respond to rapid growth in their business. And then also make it a lot more, I guess, just reliable than what they were doing before. And lastly, just kind of that power of facility management, facility administrator management. Setting it up the way we have puts power in the hands of the company, but then also in their clients. So for example, with these Cognito and user management, they're able to set up various accounts. So if they have an account in Idaho or several in Utah, they can keep those separate and siloed, while still being able to, from the company's perspective, manage all of those. Lessons learned. We learned a lot of lessons from this. it's very interesting working with a client, especially one that's currently functioning. They were a small startup, which gave us a lot of flexibility, but we also learned a lot of lessons just dealing with a smaller startup. Sometimes we just ran into some issues. Namely, some of those were just that it always takes more time. I think we were talking about that a little before, that it always is going to take more time than we assumed, especially when you're waiting for data or access from your actual client, whether that's, we ran into a lot of issues just in the beginning with getting access to even the databases we needed to start building stuff. Let's see, yes, user management we talked about as well. A lot more complicated. That's why there are various options, whether that's authenticating through Google or Facebook. We really enjoyed being able to push that off to Cognito and kind of leverage that, but it was interesting to see the amount of work it took just to get that off the ground and get working. Multiple environments, that's very critical. Our demographic for the for Utiliwares, like users, was an older generation than we're used to. So what that equated to was older browsers, but at the same time, just making sure we're supporting various browsers and mobile, since a lot of what will be used with this platform, this web platform, is mobile. So it's kind of a good experience of not just designing it in one spot. Yes, two other things, of course, is since they are a startup and they don't have a large development team with a lot of experience, there's really just one, and he doesn't have experience with a lot of what we built in using the cloud in AWS. So it was very important for us to document and keep it very simple. So, and kind of clue them in, and we're bringing them in, kind of exposing them to how things work, so that, when we're gone, they'll be able to maintain it relatively easy. And then last, it was really cool to just kind of go through the iterative approach of, due to the nature of our project, kind of design a few things, get some stuff working, sit down with the owner of the company and just get his feedback, whether that's from how the system operates or even how the front end looks. So that was, it was really interesting to work with a client in that respect. So those were some really good lessons we learned. And that kind of concludes what we have for you. So if there are any questions, we'd love to open them up and do our best to answer them.
Will you go back to your architecture slide and the before and after? Can you go back? Was it one more? Or no, keep going.
This one right here?
Oh, yeah. Didn't you have another one that showed, what it was before you started?
I think we had a list of here's some of the
Got
stuff
it.
they're using before.
Basically, before this
particle string.
Twilio and this PHP function, that's what existed before.
Yeah.
So the EC2 and everything to the left, that's all the stuff we integrated.
So tell me a little bit about your experience with the live transition of the database over to kind of AWS. Tell me kind of how that worked, when you did it, if you just kind of like gave up data, or...
So what we have right now is we have a migration script, and so they still have their old system running, and then we can take a backup of that, run our migration script, it copies everything over, updates it to the new
Oh,
schema.
okay. So they're not currently running their system off this database yet.
It runs in parallel.
Yeah, I mean, same
so
data.
The data is being fed to both systems. They don't run their text alerts off of this new database.
Yeah, yeah.
And part of that is, like Dylan said, that was built by their existing developer, and so we're trying to work with him to get him to update his code to use the new database, but we're blocked. At some points, we're blocked by that, we're dependent on that, so there's only so much we can do.
Got it.
But as soon as that goes live, then we'll migrate over to that new system. We'll have to set up probably a dev environment so that we can continue to develop without affecting the production system, but that's how I work.
So tell me, and I got a little sense of this, but tell me how you split up the work for the project.
You can start with someone.
Well, I can tell what I did. I can tell what I did. So I handled, we kind of vertically split it, so we each took a different feature set and built it out. And then I was particularly familiar with Angular because that's what I do with work. So we'd each help each other out with different parts. So I'd be helping with Lambda, Dylan did a lot of design. So yeah, we each did our own feature set, dashboard, user management, sensor.
Okay, yeah, that's what I gathered that last point. Okay, what other questions do y'all have?
We'd love to dive into any of the pieces if you want to know how they work like that.
Show status again.
Like on the actual
dashboard?
website?
So you had the alerts that were there.
Sorry.
And you talked a lot about, it's helping them with maintenance and different things. Did you have a separate?
Oh, the separate page, like if something's in specific alert. This one right here.
You had that one, but do you have something that says whether or not, when did they install the sensor? When there would be lifetime or life cycle replacement of the sensor, any of those types of things?
Nothing yet. That's something that I don't think correct me if I'm wrong, that we had thought about or talked about with Utilaware. One nice thing, in maybe kind of backing up, one great thing about the way we've set things up is it kind of gives a great platform for them to build from. But that's not something that we put in yet or talked about adding as a feature.
That's a good idea though.
I'm just thinking of them, again, you've made it so there's not a whole lot of connection for them to have to worry so much about. But when the sensor gets placed, and you had one report there that said no GPS, location, all those other sorts of things. But once, if they're trying to monitor why that system is failing, I understand several things you had, but if one of the issues is just old, it needs to be replaced, or it's life cycle replacement, or you've got new features on it.
Which is great, because the way it's set up now, that as the company grows and matures and starts asking those kind of questions, it'll be pretty easy for them to include those features in.
That's a very good call.
I see an alert right there. Does that alert ever clear?
Yeah, so the query runs, and as soon as it goes back into, so the sensor is sending statuses to the database every 10 minutes. As soon as the next status good comes in.
Okay, so they'd have to resolve the problem for
Yeah.
to stop sending that alert.
Right. Which would mean them physically going to the physical location and resolving the issue.
So are there false alerts?
What do you
Good
mean?
question.
Are there false alerts?
We'd have to
Maybe.
talk to Utilaware about that. I don't think they've never brought it up as something that happens. So
Reliability, I guess, on their part is part of their selling.
what's nice is that they don't actually manage the hardware that is being monitored. They just manage the monitoring piece, which is a small piece that they plug in, and so they can kind of just provide their value without having to worry about some. They can say the breaker's tripped, whether or not that was for a valid problem or just a fluke. Doesn't really matter. The breaker's still tripped.
So Utilaware came at the beginning of last fall and pitched the idea. You all jumped on and said, yeah, let's do this. What's the likelihood this makes it to production, that they use this?
I would say 90%. I've had some conversations with the owner of Utilaware, and the business value that Dylan brought up, those are very important things for them. It's really hard to go and say, hey, we're going to monitor your things, pay us this much money a month, and we'll just send you a text if something breaks.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a really hard sell. But if you can pull up a website and say, hey, look, this is what you'll get, you'll be able to do all this, see all this, there's no reason for them not to implement this. And our plan is actually for it to go to production before the end of the semester.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I noticed that you had a lot of Lambda functions there, and why are so many of those needed currently if it might just send, here's a reading? And so what are all the options related to it as it relates to, here's a sensor, here's the current reading, deal with it?
Well, there's some that are pretty straightforward, but if you think about user management and permissions, you've got one to get permissions, one to check permissions. You've got one to create a user, one to update the password, one to send them they forgot their email or their login information link. So just user management itself has about 10 Lambda functions.
Okay.
And then you've got the claim sensor, the switch account. Those are all doing things, and they need a back end in Lambda, which is it creates a large number of Lambda functions. But the advantage is this website is completely it's serverless. You don't have to have a server running anywhere. AWS provides that all on just their static, which actually provides for a better user interface and really works well for a mobile app. One of the things we're hoping to get to is actually making this into a mobile app. Because it's all serverless, the phone can have essentially the website downloaded, and then just everything you do on your phone is actually interacting with the Lambda app.
Makes sense.
Getting reports, or is that not built out?
So it's built out. There's not a whole lot of interesting data for the one sensor over the few days I think that we
Yeah.
had data with. But over time you can see trends, and if you aggregated a bunch of different sensors. Part of what we've had to do for this project is figuring out from them what is the data that will actually be useful, what are the kinds of reports we want to see. And from my experience working in business intelligence reporting, people don't have ideas until you show them something, and then they get their ideas. So
Yep.
that's what we're planning on happening, is that as we show them this, they'll be like, oh, that's really cool. Can I see this? And we're like, yes, we can build it for you. So, that was great.
That's good. Anyone else? All right, good job. Okay, that concludes our presentations for today. We're back tomorrow at 8:30, I think. Yep, 8:30 a.m.